This is Alex with the StockMatrix program. I believe we did have one new trade since I did the last video, and that was CTAS. And you can review the trade here. I'll look at the charts and stuff here in a second, but again, you can review the trade. It's a chopper. Again, I'm kind of long-term bullish in my opinion, which opinions don't make money. Systems make money. No emotions make money. Anyway, so yeah, this is the X account. Let's look at our portfolio. You know, we had a high of, I'm guessing, 23,000 total profit. I noticed the other day it was at 8,000, and now we have 10,000. So we've got 8,500 of losers taken up. Well, not all losers. We had some winners in there, but the first trades are all losers. So anyway, I kind of figured that right. This is a pretty key area that we're in, and the reason I'm doing the video is I'm not going to be able to do it this weekend. Today's Friday at about 6:49 a.m. So I won't be around this weekend, so I thought I'd go ahead and update this. Because again, this is the solar eclipse, right? This zone is the solar. Now the solar comes in on Saturday, I believe. So it's again either a Friday, Monday opening. It hasn't been as wild as I thought. You know, CTAS was the only one that had a little wrinkle, had a gap up, which, you know, again, my fills are probably a little questionable because I didn't look at it when the bid and offers were live. So anyway, I did the best I could, I'm guessing. But we took CTAS off, you know, left a little on the table there since it gapped up, and then we bought the calls, you know, in the hole because it went down right away, and then closed up yesterday. So, but you can look at this portfolio. Again, you're not made until the trade is off. Just a good lesson learned. Let's look at the statistical page of the StockMatrix program. And again, this is kind of the WD Gann thing, I guess. You know, I like the annuals that Gann used to do. I like the 45, something simple, right? I mean, there's more numbers you can add, and I did highlighted these 120 zones. But again, for anything close within a few days either side of 45, you know, 45, 90, 135, 180, you know, that kind of thing, all the way out, right? 900 is the next one out here, and I believe 815. Can't remember. Anyway, these are all, we're in the zones of some of these. Some of them are a little past. I left them on there. Now the annuals really don't have much. We've got Microsoft with an annual, which I did not highlight, which I should have. And then we did have Apple come in yesterday. And again, you can see there's not as many as normal. Yesterday we also had Procter & Gamble and JPM. Now over the weekend there'll be one on JPM as well. And again, we're into the zone a couple days prior to the 900 number. Coinbase, this annual and the opening, right? So again, the all-time high and the open, which again, that was the first trade of the whole Coinbase was the high and the open, right? So, but anyway, pretty key there coming into that annual. CTAS has really nothing until next week, so pretty quiet, really. You know, these are all yesterday's stuff, so. Again, not a whole lot to report there. Now, again, the solar is the big thing. Now, again, remember, the solar is more of where you begin counting, right? It's the 0 day. The lunar eclipse tends to be more highs and lows in the stock market. Now, in the commodities, you know, the corn, beans, wheat tend to make more eventful lows and highs on the solar. You know, the cattle, hogs tend to make on lunar. Again, so you just got to know the history and do a little homework on those as you go along. Let's look at the charts. Here's NVIDIA, and again, we'll be closing this out. The solar comes in on Saturday at 10:59, so we'll close these out on the close today, which I won't be around for. So again, but again, you can see the stops. It didn't stop us out yet. Meta had a pop up, which turned the short-term trend long. And by the way, the short-term trend is actually up now. Let's look at our data sheet here. I kind of keep track of these, but you can see we went from minus 15 on the short-term trend. And now it's actually +1. Now the long-term trend's still down because we, you know, got stops pretty much over the highs and all this stuff. So anyway, and you can see Meta, the short-term trend is up, but we kind of faded here. So again, pretty key, right? If this is just a correction, and this basically refers to all the stocks that we got, the 17 select StockMatrix stocks. But if this is just a correction, you know, this will probably get stopped out with a loser, or, you know, leave a lot on the table. I don't think those will be losses, but so again, next week's going to be pretty key. If it follows through if it's a weak close, let's say today, if it follows through the downside and we continue to make new lows, right? Because then something's different. You know, to me, then you got a bearish trend. And again, the highs for the year could be definitely in. Coke, kind of a double top up here. And again, solar eclipse right at the previous solar eclipse. Meta is close to the previous solar eclipse. NVIDIA is on the solar eclipse, this dotted line here. Google on the solar eclipse, kind of trading above and below it. So you can see we really haven't gone anywhere. So in a 6-month period, right, since the last solar. But again, we've had the up and the down. So again, it's pretty key to me moving forward if we continue the downtrend, because then we'll be in a bear, I believe. And I don't care about percentages and all what the book says it needs to be, but to me something's different. And this should rally up, right? Again, if this is just a correction on the stocks, and these are the top stocks, in my opinion, at least a good chunk of them, they shouldn't go down. Microsoft, you can see we're way below the solar. Now, again, that's bearish, right? Again, from close to close, it's no different than a monthly close or a weekly close. If you close lower, and this one closed substantially lower, that's more negative. Amazon is above it. So, and again, all the news that you heard about the big dogs getting out of their positions pushed the market higher, and then finally it made a V top, and then poof, down we went. And the stops are up here, so we're going to be profitable. But again, after this moon period, our stop's going to go right here. If the high stays, our stops will go here on Amazon at 207.05. Apple, again, kind of on the solar eclipse, went back to it here yesterday. Stops are at a loss. Tesla kind of gapped up on the moon periods and a spring low, so kind of interesting. This is 55% drop down here on a bear trap, right? A perfect trade. If you're a bull of the Tesla and wanted to buy a dip, you had opportunity to galore. Here's Lynn, kind of a friendly trade, head and shoulders top on the longer term charts. Potential, we should say. We don't know that yet. ED, the only bull we have, did go lower, but closed, back into the close of last moon period. Again, this is a spring high. If you remember back into this, I was kind of thinking this would be pretty important for the stocks. Now, again, our stops will get moved to here, up a little, right? But again, we got long down here. So been a good trade to the upside. We had to roll that trade once already because of time. AD, PE, Adobe, an ugly freaking gap in Marty, just a suck pig. Here's IBM. Again, kind of odd, right? Had this huge gap up, pretty bullish, went and filled the gap, did its thing. But again, the close this Friday, today, will be pretty important to me. And then, of course, the follow through, if any, on Monday. Here's BK, Bank of Magellan, old company. Again, stops are way over the highs. Now they'll get moved down to here, which will still be a loss, but at least they'll be manageable. Procter & Gamble, stops are way above here, and they'll stay up here. They'll be moved to over 1 bar, but still it's negative. Just a chopper. You can see the spin outs it's had. No trend there. Here's JPM. Again, we'll move our stops over to here. If this high holds, or whatever the high is today, our stops will go over that on one of these numbers here. So right now it looks like logically 255.65 is where the stops will go. And I won't go long until then either, by the way. Stops will get pushed down on Coinbase. A 50% drop down, so pretty ugly. 225 would be the projected stops if we have a quiet day today. CTAS gap up. Again, got stopped out here. We had a pretty good trade going, left a lot on the table, and then this gap up. Now, it opened here, I believe. And again, that's why I left this gray, because I like to know where the gaps are. But you can see that the market didn't gap in new highs, so we didn't get screwed. We got stopped out where we should have got stopped out. But then it closed soft, so left felt a bitter taste in our mouth. This is the Trump chart I've been keeping track of, the new coin, meme coin. And again, the solar's kind of down in here. We're acting a little ugly at the moment, just a quiet, no trade deal, typical for a stock like that, or a crypto coin like that. Okay, let's move on to the daily charts. I want to, let me get these out so you can see them here. Again, these have all the annuals on them. Again, not much to report really, just kind of some days that we had. Here's Meta. You can see we're just kind of quiet. Here's the solar eclipse on a daily basis, and you can see we really have nothing in here. This annual here will go up here again since we closed lower the previous day. 18. Again, this is, I won't do this for everyone, but just so you know, that's kind of what I do. If it has a poor close, I follow it and stay, now again, this high here becomes important to me on a trading basis. Again, a 22% drop in Meta out of nowhere, right? This was the bull of bulls, had all kinds of activity. It just couldn't go down. And of course, the big boys were getting out all the way. They got out. You heard stories. Oh, the top dogs are getting out of meta, and it just kept going on. So again, you got to be careful of what's real, what's not. Who knows? They might have been getting out of shares, but buying calls, right? You don't know exactly what they're doing. Here's Coke, the parent company. I did look at the bottling company, COKE, how you spell Coke, right? That's the bottling company. That's an interesting chart too. I actually like that chart. Anyway, you can see we had back to the solar eclipse, so pretty tough to just get wound up here and assuming it's going to go up or down. Right now it's sideways. Here's the solar eclipse here. Again, just kind of close through it. So the close is kind of important. If we close back up on it, it's nothing. Don't know where to go with it for sure. Let me see. Here is Microsoft. Again, we had these two annulars here. I put them here. Now, again, it might, again, just wasn't enough volume on this day to get me to change it to down here. Either way, it's pretty important, right? Because we did knock it out with a vengeance and close back on it. So I think I'm comfortable leaving the annuals there. We do have an annual here coming in today, which, again, who knows for sure if it's a lower high. But that one's on the solar, so kind of important. No annuals coming in the Amazon. Did have a little gap, but just can't. It's a putter. If this is our leg up, right? If this is number one, again, for all these really, if this is our number one leg down and this is leg two, or if this is an A and this is our B, that's a weak B, man. That doesn't bode well. To me, that means we're going down the same length of this leg, same length that leg to here, which would project some type of low on this low, right? So again, it's definitely possible, but holy smokes, man. That's a weak stick there. I just don't like that. And my gut's telling me to be awfully careful being bullish some of these stocks. This is a little older break. Apple's more sloppy because everybody's loaded up with Apple, so it's hard to trade. I take that back. It's a good one to trade quickly. It's a poor one, in my opinion, to hang on. You get swings, but they're magnified either direction because everybody's fully loaded. Everybody thinks Apple's a spot company that will never go down. Well, history has proven that Apple's had over 5 or 6, 50 to 70% breaks, so you got to be careful with a stock like that. Not saying it will. It's an old, but there's always a big dog somewhere. Tesla, you can see it had a 75%er. Again, pretty mild pop back after a 55%er. So it closed crappy Thursday, yesterday. So kind of just don't like that speed up after this nice little bottom. I preferred it to go much more vertical. Here's Lynn, kind of a sideways chopper, potential head and shoulders. Right, again, you can see it when I squish it down. Here is the solar eclipse, so we're a little negative from the previous solar, which was near the high. Let's go to ED. Again, our only bull that we really got that made new highs this last moon period. Only one out of the 17 select stocks. And I wouldn't classify ED as a JP Morgan stock or anything, man. I mean, it's definitely just a bank stock. But you can see it, just a slopper. It's kind of like here, pop, 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 boom, and then it trades sideways with a kind of it's kind of got that same feeling, pop, boom. It just can't. It's probably mathematically too high for these long-term money guys that do the actual math. It just probably the math's not equaling out. Here's the gap and Marty of the Adobe. You can see that not much to say. The gap held. IBM, the gap kind of held. We filled made sense, right, to come down to this level. This is the old high. This is the old high. And one of these highs we're going to probably hold. It was into the gap. So this made sense. Anybody that was trading too tight had stops here, might have got stopped out several times and bought it back in because I missed it. The fear of missing out is a terrible thing. The worst fear you need to get rid of. Don't worry about missing out. There's thousands of stocks to trade. Versus commodities where you're pretty limited. The stocks, there's a ton. Cryptos, there's a ton. Here's BK, another safe trade. Pretty bullish, right? Caught in this parallel channel, which is a good thing. At least it's trending higher. Here is Procter & Gamble, another safe play, but man, what a whipper. To me, Procter & Gamble's a trading stock. It doesn't make any sense to me to stay in new highs. It's proven it's, again, makes new highs, poof. Makes new highs, poof. Makes new highs here, poof. Makes new highs here, poof. Makes new highs here, poof. I wish this one would have actually made a new high. So it leaves, since it did not make a new high and have the trap, I don't think we'll have a trap down here. We'll probably come down in here somewhere. and trade. You know, it's a trading stock to me. It's just not a people buy it. Maybe the dividend. I don't know about the dividend. Maybe it's so good it's worthy. But you know, if you're going to long-term hold it, you got to and add to it. You want to add on the dip for sure. Those hard jabs are pretty easy. J.P. Morgan, we do have an annular coming in Monday, but you can see it. It's just again another corrective move with the trap. We had a trap high, a trap low, so we don't need to do it again. It could. I wouldn't want to buy the trap after we've already had a trap here. This is support. You can see this is a mathematical trend line, I believe. Let me double check. Oops. Yeah, that is a mathematical one. So it's a pretty common thing. You know, it looks like it's a good average, right? That's all trend lines are, is showing you the average. This was this from the solar to this low, and another cycle of that was that low. So let's go out. It looks like this is the next one. So that doesn't come into play. But again, we're coming into new solar. So Coinbase, a weak stick. This little pop just makes me want to vomit. It doesn't have any power. It's kind of like this one was, you know, it just kind of rounded out of that and then puked. This just doesn't, this makes me concerned that this 50% break is going to turn into a 55er or more. Again, we know in history it can break. But this is how Coinbase trades. It's different than Procter & Gamble. It's different than JP Morgan. It has a big pop and then big down and then quiet. More of a commodity. A big pop, a big down, and then quiet. And then big pop, new highs, well, new highs for the swing, and then down, right? So again, it trades a little differently. Just you got to know the history of your market that you're trading. CTAS is a grinder to the upside, and again, that's what I assume is going to happen. If you've been following me, you know I believe that this 20%, 21% decline, and once we got up into here, I go, uh-oh, this is a pattern I've seen in my memory banks. It's going to continue to grind higher. Over a year from now, we'll make a new high. Still going to be a grinder. I think the bull of bulls is over. I think it could still make new highs, but it's going to be a grinder, not a fast market. So definitely, if you're a bull on CTAS, you buy the dips only because you'll get plenty. Don't get fearful that you miss something. I don't think long calls, to be honest with you, are the way to go either, or puts for that fact, because I think it's going to be a pretty slow grind. Now, again, there's still pretty good swings. Don't get me wrong. You might be able to trade it, but I think as an overall market, it's just not going to. You can see 6 months ago we're at the same price, so a lot of these stocks just haven't gone anywhere. Here's the E-mini S&P. Again, from new highs, the trap, poof, down we go.
Refresh finished.
Here's the Dow, the trap, poof, down we go, back to the solar, right?
Refresh finished.
Here's the NASDAQ mini futures. Again, back to the solar, right on the button actually. Kind of a pretty similar trade. Here's the QQQ after the trap, back to the solar. Pretty commonplace, right? So it's hard to get too excited about being a massively wild bull, on this break, because all we are is back to the solar. We haven't really corrected yet. And again, how I look at things. Let's look at, I want to look at some oddball ones just for a quick measure. Let's go to a commodity. I'm off track here a little bit, but this was the bull of bulls, the coffee market, which everybody uses, right? You drink coffee in the morning. It's not going to get any, went from 200 to 400, right? So 100% increase at a high level. So the solar eclipse is down here, so you can see it's pretty important. Here's the wheat on its ass. The driest weather conditions. I'm in here in Salina, Kansas, and it's a sucky dry hole. We're in a drought city. It's terrible dry. It's going to be April for Christ's sakes, and we haven't had any rain. So anyway, I don't know how they're selling that. That's a typical commodity play, though, right? Everybody's bullish the rain or the dry, right? And so they club it down, and then you'll make new lows. Again, I'll be watching this trap if we can make it to buy. Coffee. Oh, that's coffee. I already showed you that one. Here is the beans. Again, pretty quiet. Kind of a head and shouldery potential bottom. This is a July contract. You can see I haven't kept track of my annuals like I did before, but we're definitely below the solar. Pretty negative on that basis. Now the corn was above the solar, and now we're quiet again. Let me see. So yeah, I mean we're below the so again sideways. So it's hard to get to. We had a decent pop, but back to the solar. So I would assume we had a trap right here. This was a bull trap. So I'm expecting a bear trap. Lows into the summer. Now there's a super cycle that if you go to my CBOT Man 33 on the X account and you page down, you'll see that I did some over the WD GAN super cycle on corn. I overlaid the 1965 chart, 66 I think, whatever. You can see I overlaid the charts, and it, 1966, which is next year, but the lows occur prior to. So I'm looking for major lows into the super cycle. So now Tucurium has a stock that trades just like corn, and they have corn, wheat, and beans. They have CORN is the symbol, and wheat I believe is WEAT, and soyB, SOYB, is a symbol for soybeans. So you can actually trade. It trades off the futures, so you can actually trade. And they also have sugar, I believe. But it's actual futures. It's not a where it has weird shit in there, right? Like processing plants and some of these stocks that claim to be they have all weird shit. But these are just based on futures. So anyway, here nor there. But if we get some Super Bowl, commodities can be definitely a moneymaker. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Have a good weekend, and I won't be here this weekend for an update. Have a great rest of your trading day.